The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves. Earth's mightiest heroes, type thing.
Let's get into a little bit about comic pressing and cleaning with Nick, since he's here on the show. Because I'm interested, man. I'm always interested in pressing and cleaning. I mean, that's if I don't submit without doing it. I mean, I'm just one of those guys. I know Rob has got lucky and he submitted a couple and got 9.8s without it. I'm like, dude, you still have like fucking $15, man. You know, and then mine comes back like a 9.6. But that wasn't on Nick. That was on another presser. But I've been sticking with I've been sticking with Nick, you know, ever since, man. Like so this is my history with Nick. Like me and Nick have our pull at the same comic book store called Nowhere Comics and Games. Yeah, with Matthias. And I was asking around with the guys like, hey man, I need a presser. I need to press a couple books. Who do you guys recommend? And then they recommended over to Nick. And me and Nick started talking, and I gave him a couple books. Submitted some books with some signatures that I got over at Torpedo Comics, and they got really good grade bumps, man. One of them I thought was an 8.5, got a 9.4. I'll take that anytime. Yeah, Nick bumped it up. So I mean, I've been going with Nick ever since, and you know, he's a good dude. You know, like he always answers. You know, I always text him. He always sends me pictures out of nowhere saying like, I'm working on this book. Like, you know, it's hard to find an honest guy, man, in this game, bro. Like that's one thing I've kind of learned. Like it's like any type of collectible scene that you're in or community, man. It's you know, when you're working with different people, it's hard to find them honest people that'll tell you what's up.
Yep.
And Nick always tells me what's up. So I want to ask Nick, man, like how did you get into the whole pressing game?
So yeah, like in the introduction, I've been in sports cards and comics and entertainment cards since I was a little kid. My dad owned a baseball card shop, and I remember like putting comics on his rack, you know, like Submariner #1, you know, his first solo series, and having it pricing with the price gun for $5.99, and just remembering not what happened to it, but remembering that I wish I had that $300 comic today, you know. So I've been in really comics for a long time. And it wasn't until like 2017, you know, that I realized that pressing was a thing, right? I'd been submitting my books just like anybody else through CGC at Comic Cons, just submitting them and just hoping for the best, and not really understanding, you know, what it took to make a good comic, like make a CGC 9.8. I came from the sports card world where, you know, cards were 9.5s. They had like centering and corners and like surface grades and stuff like that. And getting into comics, you know, you have more spine grades and, you know, fingerprint grades and internal pages that get graded and stuff like that. So it was really a learning experience, like just submitting my stuff and finding out what happened. Like, you know, oh man, my New Mutants 98 came back a 9.4. It looks better than my Amazing Spider-Man 300. Why did my Amazing Spider-Man 300 a 9.6 and my New Mutants a 9.4? I didn't understand why. So it was about 2017 I started looking into that, when I found out pressing was a thing and how could I also press. And I started buying equipment, started reading blogs and you know, YouTube videos and those types of things, and just getting more into it. And started with cheap books, you know, because I wasn't gonna crack open my slabs and you know, do my New Mutants 98 or my Amazing Spider-Man 300 right away. You know, I had to practice on anything and everything I could buy for $1. You know, but you know, materials are expensive, so you know, it's not a cheap thing to learn how to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an old school guy. I've been collecting for 30 some odd years. At least for me, the big thing was with CGC, their pressing was kind of a no-no because of restoration and pressing. Sure. Yeah. A lot of people don't know the difference between what pressing is and what restoration is. Can you kind of go quickly over that? I mean,
Yeah. So restoration is when you're changing the book, right? So pressing, you're really just like pressing and cleaning. You're really just shaping up the book to look nicer. You're not really, you're not changing staples. You're not applying any chemicals. You're not, changing out the cover or applying tape or putting color on it in any sort of way, right? When you're pressing and cleaning, you're basically just doing arts and crafts to the book, right? It really is a craft, you know. You're not doing hydrogen peroxide or other awful things that I could think to do to a book, like change out staples because they're rusty or something
Right.
like that. Like the last thing you want to do as a presser is to get a green label, right? Like no one wants the green label of death.
Well, isn't it the purple label? Because green label I thought was the green was signature. I thought.
Purple is.
Yellow signature. So
No, the unauthorized signature. I'm sorry, the unverified signature.
that's also green, but green is any time that
Okay.
something's been modified to the book. So it's a
Okay.
restoration grade. It's
Okay.
like, it comes on signatures that they haven't verified, and also if there's color touch or changed out staples.
Yeah, I just remember I got one where I had books signed, and then I had it sent in to get signed by someone else, and it came back with a green label, and I freaked out because I was like, whoa, wait a sec. They shipped it back and they fixed it, but it still was like an NYX number 3. So it was just like, yeah, I want that yellow, not green.
Yeah, and actually, they're both like green and purple, kind of the same thing, right? Purple is full restoration, and green is a qualified label, right?
Okay.
Like name written on the cover or
Right.
coupon missing or something like that.
Now I know for a while also CGC they would only let their in-house people press, or they considered outside of them. That was it's considered restoration, I guess they said.
If a presser does their job right, you don't know that a book has been pressed.
Right.
Right? Like if a person who cleans a book and presses a book and does it correctly, you don't know that it's been pressed. That's really the big thing, right? Because there's a lot of improper pressing that happens.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's things that can happen when someone presses a book that can damage a book. Because when you're pressing a book, you are giving it some sort of humidity, and then from giving it some sort of humidity, then you're putting it in the press because you're trying to get the fibers to reset at this flat thing that you want, right? And that's why some books, from Diamond are going to come out 9.8. Some of them aren't going to come out 9.8s. Some of them come out wavy. Every book should just be looked at, as an individual case.
So I have a question, JR. I hope you don't mind.
No, go for it.
To kind of just jump on what JR's mentioned. What if you had that book signed and you wanted a higher grade and you wanted to get it pressed?
You can
So
press
I
signature
know
books.
that CGC kind of needs to be that middleman to kind of say, okay, this person is approved to do that pressing or that kind of work in order to maintain that yellow.
So CGC to verify any signature, to slab a signature book, right? They want to see the signature take place. They don't have a signature verification database like CBCS or BGS grading, right? That's the big difference between them, right? So like if you take your book and you take it and you want to get it signed, right? And you want to get it graded, you just have to have CGC there. There's no time for you to press it after the signing. You have to press it before the signing, have it signed, have CGC see it, and then slab it. Or have it signed, have CGC press it, and then slab it.
Is there any way to go from a yellow label, like say I have a yellow 9.0? Is there any way to say, hey, Nick, can I give you this yellow 9.0 graded book for you to press, and then you ship it to CGC and see what they say and have it come back as also a yellow label?
they'll give you a green label.
Okay.
It's because they didn't see the signature, and that's the only thing. They don't care about my pressing, their pressing. That's about signature verification, the label right there.
Okay.
The grade is going to be the press, right? If that's the case, I would send to CBCS, right? Because CBCS has a database of signatures where they can verify signature A versus another copy, you know?
Yeah, but the only thing with CBCS, which I'm a little leery about, and there's been a lot of like fraud regarding it, and it has to do with like somebody forging a signature for Jim Lee that really like took that industry for what it was worth.
Gotcha.
Because even Jim was saying that this isn't mine. Why is this person? Why did they grade it? You know, why did they say I signed it when it wasn't? When I know my own signature and wasn't there.
You know, I hadn't heard about that specific case, but I know recently, it could have been a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, CBCS was bought by BGS, which is Beckett Grading Services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Beckett Grading Services, they own the sports card grading industry pretty much. PSA exists, but, you know, Beckett Grading Services, just like CGC is the comics, BGS cards go for more, right? And they verify signatures after the fact. So they have this database. Like if there's a name to be trusted in signature verification, it's probably BGS or PSA that can verify signatures after the fact, not witness the signing. If they got caught on a Jim Lee thing for, you know, maybe something went by one of their verifiers, their authenticators, that sucks, and that sucks for their credibility. I wouldn't hold that against BGS. I don't know if they're running each other yet. I don't know how cohesive the two companies have become, but one buying the other told me, I could have confidence in CBCS. You know.
But now you can, if you have a signed yellow book with CGC, you can send it to CGC and have them crack it, press it, and then keep that yellow label, I believe.
If that's a service that they offered, that would be the only way, is if it never leaves their hands.
Right.
If it leaves the slab and it's not in their hands, at that point they don't know who signed it.
Well, in order to get multiple cons and stuff like that too, you pretty much have to get them and then watch them. Have them open it up pretty much, or have yourself open it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a fun process either to do
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
No, it's huge.
Yeah,
That's why I usually pay someone else to do it.
That's smart. I mean, last year I just took my books to CBCS, and because I got some Bitter Root signed by Sanford Green and David Walker.
Awesome.
And the CGC line is huge, right?
Yeah.
Every day it's huge. And I just gave up on Sunday. I just went over there, got the guys to sign it myself, walked back to CBCS and said, here, take my book, pay $5, verify it. I know it was signed by them. I know it.
Yeah.
You know?
They have, I will say, they've done a couple things this last year, and I was looking forward to see what they do this year, because they were going to do like a separate room at San Diego Comic-Con where you went in there and did it. But obviously we won't see that this year. But I know last year they were doing things where, because I get sketch covers done, and you could go over with the person, pick it up, and they put it in a bag, and the guy seals it and signs and everything, and then you can walk it over to the other one to drop it off, and did it that way, and it made it a lot easier. The line was a lot shorter, but you still had to wait for at least one witness.
Anything they can do to improve the process.
Yeah.
Because
no, I agree.
The end of that story with CBCS is I'm still waiting for my books, and it's 9 months later. So
CBCS?
For CBCS, I submitted them at Comic-Con.
Oh
Ouch.
my god!
Yeah, so that's
It's gonna have a birthday.
It's gonna have a birthday soon, exactly.
Oh my
You know what?
God.
They delayed the Eternals movie, so at least my books, won't lose market value. It's a lot of Eternals I sent them.
Oh.
Well, the
So
problem
right now, like the times for grading for CGC for fast track is like a week.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Oh,
submitting
yeah.
stuff left and right.
I know you submitted your Batman 90s, the foil ones, and it came back to you like in a week and 2 weeks, right? Like it was done.
Yeah, it was like it took them a week to get the stuff and then shipping it back. I mean, it's just unheard of.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I'm just curious, as a collector, what's the things that you see most common that people like? Sometimes you'll go, "Oh, I have New Mutants run. I guess that first appearance of Deadpool's worth money. Let me pull it out. I bring it to you." What's the most common things you see that somebody that bought it right off the rack, that other than tears and rips, that type of thing? What's the most common things that you see that people tend to do when they have comics?
So it's spine roll, right? Spine roll is the number one thing I see on all books. It's the thing that it was on my books when I sent my books in and I didn't know why they were coming back with lower grades. Fingerprints and spine rolls. It's a lot like people don't know how to store their books, right? Like people put their books, back to back, cover to back, right? And that presses against each other in their boxes. Really, you should be putting all your books cover to cover, right? And then put them in your long boxes that way, as opposed to back like this.
Yeah, he taught me that one.
Right? Because look, what happens is you have your spine here, right? And your spine is a thick edge on your book. And all that does is sit there and press against each other. They don't sit equally inside of your long box.
Yeah.
Right? So if you put them like this, you have one spine against the thin edge, one spine against the thin edge here, and your books are stored properly. Now, it's a pain in the ass when you're trying to read them or you're trying to like flip through them. You're like, oh man, what's this one? I got to pull this one out and look at this one. It sucks, but your books are in better condition,
Okay.
No, it's a good tip because I didn't even think about doing that.
Yeah.
Anything Nick presses with me, I do that. I have a whole little compartment for all that stuff. Yeah, because I'm not trying to get him pressed again.
And if you're not submitting your books right away, you should take your books and put them in archival bags after they've been pressed, which is the thicker Mylar, or I don't know if it's Mylar. It's just the thicker bag. It's really thick. It makes a big sound when you put the bags in there, but it'll protect your books a lot better than the regular bags and boards. I also tell them to use Silver Age bags and boards. Use Silver Age bags and boards because modern bags and boards suck.
So what do you? I mean, when you're pressing books, like, what do you say? Like, you get a book and you're like, maybe this book shouldn't get pressed. What are you looking for when you see that?
I mean, a book that shouldn't get pressed typically is a book that is pretty old, right? Like, most modern books can get pressed. There's ways to work around different staples and stuff like that. Old books with covers that are about to fall the frick off, man. Like, why press your book, right? Like, I had a buddy who had a book from the 60s that was like, I was like, dude, just don't press it. Just get graded. Like, what kind of bump are you looking for? You're looking for a bump from a 3 to a 4. You're looking for a bump from like, I guess a 4 to a 5. Like, sometimes if it's already messed up, like, just slab it to protect it. Don't press it. Especially like, I don't know. I wouldn't press books that aren't worth the pressing, right? Like, if the book is a $1 book, why press
Hercules Unleashed number 10?
Turok number 1? Like, why
That's what I was gonna ask.
why press Turok number 1, right? Like, just buy a 9.8 Turok number 1. There's ones out there. It just you pressing it, you buying a $1 book, pressing it, submitting it, waiting for all that time just to get back a 9.6 or a 9.4, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. Like, $100 book, just buy it. Just buy it. Like, brand new books, sometimes, like, I'll just buy them already PSA. Slabbed Heroes does a great job,
Yeah, I would agree with that because, like, the time costs money, the shipping costs, the cost for grading. It's like you have to be very selective about what kind of book you want to get graded, especially if you're looking to either it be an investment for yourself or for your kids or whoever, or also an investment as in like, hey, I'm going to go flip this. I mean, you have to be aware of what's the current environment. Like JR and yourself made a great point. It's like you can't be doing like a $1 book. You have to pick out something that means something to you or something that's worthwhile.
So here's a book I got pressed. I pressed a book. It's New Agents of Atlas. It came out at 9.8, right? But if I was to do this today, I would just buy the book already graded.
Yeah.
Because what is it, $100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought 3 copies of the book off shelf raw. I pressed them all. Yeah, so I used materials to press 3 books, and I picked the best one and I sent it in. Yeah, I got a 9.8, but how much effort and time did I spend that I could have been sorting my comic collection or something? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So-
No, time is definitely money.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way, man. I just bought a couple of Hell Orisons. I bought the Hell Orisons 3 and the variant for it, cover B, and they were like 120 each. Like, and they're 9.8s. Like, I have no problem paying for that much because I don't want to spend the time of
Yep.
us meeting up at the shop, me giving it to you, and then you doing it, and you coming back. That's a lot of time, man. If I can get a 9.8 for a decent price, it's over.
Now your Miles book, or your first Electra that you had me do a couple weeks ago, those books are worth it, right?
Yeah.
Those
Because
books
they're old.
you get, yeah.
Yeah.
But even the Miles is not old though, right? But like the Miles, if it comes back at a 9.6 or higher, you're talking about $300 plus book from a $65 book that you dumped another $45 into,
But especially like that, the Daredevil Electra I gave you, like that needed that. I could see like that just needed a really good press, man. And it came out sick, so.
And that had roller marks, manufacturing defects.
Mm-hmm. So tell us the most. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. So I have a Stanley signed Infinity Gauntlet, right, with a COA and a little hologram sticker. If I send it into CBCS, what kind of label would I get back in return?
They give you a blue label, right? They give you or I think it's their blue label, their signature label, whatever.
It's yellow.
I thought
It's the
theirs
same
is-
thing.
Is there red or is it also?
It's
I thought
also
it was
yellow.
red.
CBCS uses yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
They give you the signature label, right? You'd have to pay $5 though for their verification process, which isn't bad, and they don't care whether you send them in a certificate or not. They don't.
Oh, they don't care. So
No.
okay,
Just keep the certificate for sure.
okay. What about that little I know with Stanley they put like a little hologram sticker on the book. Would I take that off or send it in with it or?
It don't matter. They're just gonna verify it no matter what.
That's what I
Okay.
think. Yeah, they'll just verify it and say, "Hey, we've used our signature verifiers to verify this is a true Stanley autograph."
You
Yeah,
can
'cause I
send
have.
it in, let them know.
And he probably won't get dinged for it because he did that a lot. So I
Yeah.
imagine they know that that's something that's been there on thousands of books.
Mhm.
So they won't ding you for it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask you a question. So if Rob was to submit that, right? Could you, if Rob was asked you, like, can I press my book with you? Would you press it with the signature on it?
Yeah, you can press
Yeah.
signature books. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you're pressing a book, you're never like putting an iron directly onto the book, right? I mean, you can, but that's people taking it up another notch, and usually the books are pretty beat up. Like,
Mhm.
it needs that type of work. Typically, an actual press, you're using like, different levels of protection for the book that like it never touches metal. It never, it's heated up for like a minimum of minutes.
Mhm.
It's you're trying to do no harm.
Mhm. So talk to us how the process works when I first give you a book. Like, what's
Sure.
the process look like when you start? The process like when you press it.
Yeah, so when I take a book, the first thing I want to do is take pictures of it, so what the book looked like before I started to mess with it, and that is probably the hardest thing I have to do because I'm not a good picture taker. But so you want to take pictures of the spine, you want to take pictures of the front cover, you want to take pictures of the back cover, you want to look at the staples, you want to get an idea of what kind of book you're working with here. Like your Miles book has staples that come up and down like this,
Mhm.
right? Versus, I don't know, the Wolverine book had just regular staples,
Mhm.
and you're going to use different type of protection to protect the book from the press and the staples, right? So you're usually using a combination of like, backer boards, parchment paper, different card stocks. a t-shirt press that's been modified to your specifications. Usually you're sanding things down, and yeah, man, each book, each paper has like, different,
Temperature.
yeah, different temperatures and different like things that it can withstand, like I've turned books into bricks before. Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen a comic book fuse completely and turn into a brick,
Wow.
but that happens. Then it happens with modern books because these new paper is not real paper. I don't really understand what the new paper is. It's this glossy substance. I don't know. But if you press it too hot, too long, the whole book will become completely inflexible and be completely
Wow.
ruined and be, yeah. So
Do you have one of those? Can we send
That has
one?
been
I don't have one readily available.
Bad
but
press.
there are, yeah, there are
with
things
our
that,
press books, that's what they were coming out like, because our press, like, you have to be, it has to be a certain degree heat too, and ours I think only got to like 107. I don't know, whatever degree it is, but it didn't get hot enough, and then so you had to set it in there for so long, and then you take it out and it's just literally ink can pretty much wipe off, and then literally like crisp. But if you crack it, you pretty much have to crack it, and then you can read it again. But
yeah, and then the pages are sticking together and they're gonna come off on each other, like so. There's all kinds of things that can happen, so you do have to really take a lot of time. When I first started pressing, I was like, oh man, this looks really good, and then I'd have like a giant hole in the cover of my book, and I was like, where's this giant hole coming from the cover of my book? And it was from my press. I hadn't sanded it down, and so like I'm not a really, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm a really mechanical guy. I'm a guy who works in an office, and I like my video games. I got my video game chair, so I'm in my garage with a power sander, trying to figure out how to sand my thing so I'm not messing up books anymore, So yeah. So when you first get a book, you definitely want to inspect the book, make sure that you know what kind of book you're about to press, and really most books, unless they're like magazine books, they all, or square bound books, they all pretty much handle the same,
Good. I was going to ask you this question. How about something like this, where you got a foil or a 3D?
So you can press foil books and embossed books. They require different kind of like work to them. Like you have to use extra padding on the foil and stuff like, and the embossed. Also less pressure, less heat, because you could bubble your foil. It's not really, to be real, like none of my books are 90s foil books, so I've never really pressed a foil book. I would want to definitely mess around with some cheap books before I got into that.
There's plenty in the dollar bins.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Most of the stuff I like to press are Bronze Age, Copper Age, modern, but even modern, you got to be careful, dude. They got those codes in the back, the codes, the digital codes. If you press it without protecting that code, both sides of the page of that code, right, and to insulate the rest of the book from that little sticker, the sticker imprint will go through the entire book, all of the pages. Wow.
So when I'm on Instagram and I see these pressers, they always have their books under humidifiers. Can you unmystify tell us more about that? Unmystify the humidifier. Yep.
So yeah, the humidifier, it sounds more complicated than it is. It's a tub that you create. It's just a storage tub that you would normally store stuff in, that you're going to fill up a little bit with water, and you're going to make an elevated platform for your book to kind of hang out in there. And you're going to, what was that?
Like a dock.
Like a dock, yeah, like a dock, something where it sits on a grate, something where it sits above the water. You're definitely going to want it above the water as you want, as you can, because you don't want splash. I have a cat, as you know, and if a cat runs up and hits the side of the thing, and then water splashes up against the bottom of your book, you now have a ruined book. So
that's number one reason for slabbing books is because of cats.
So it's just a tub. that you're putting your book in with some hot steaming water, for a few hours, depending on the paper of the book you're working on. That goes into looking at the book and understanding what book you're working on.
Mhm.
And each book is going to need some sort of moisture in order to reset the fibers.
Mhm. I always hear fibers, man. You always say fibers.
Yeah, because it's supposed to have paper fibers. At least the older books do.
And then they I always hear like the fibers got to settle.
Fibers got to settle. That's why I tell you a book takes 24 hours. That's why, if you ever got a guy who tells you, hey, I can get you a book pressed in and out same day, run away from that guy, right? Because they're books on pressing. I don't know if you guys know, like, there's a book you can buy on Amazon, this is a craft that people do, right? And there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And the guys who tell you they can do it in an hour, that's the wrong way, right? There's no rushing this. A book takes 24 hours, like in a good press, a guy doing their job.
So if someone's interested in pressing, man, what would you recommend them? Would you recommend them buying that Amazon book or buying a presser, or what type of presser, or
Yeah, so there's a guy, he wrote a book. It's called Comic Book CPR. It's kind of like my Bible for pressing. If I had to press the foil book, I'd go to the area about foil books. But ultimately, I would say if you want to get into pressing, buy the book, buy the press, set aside some money because the materials are expensive, and have yourself a stack of practice books. And just keep practicing. But you only have one press when you first start, and each book takes 24 hours. So
how many presses do you have right now?
I have 2.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
because it really, you don't really want to do too much more than that. At least I don't. I want to spend personal attention on the book. Even new books have dirt and grime and stuff like that on them. And all it takes is you being a little sloppy to let some sort of particle underneath your parchment paper in your press, and then you've pressed in a pebble into your book.
So go ahead, Alonso.
So I was going to ask. So with all of that in mind, I mean, how much are you charging for that to press a book? I mean, do you vary by tier, if it's a modern, or if it's like a copper or bronze or silver? And then also too, what's the turnaround time? I mean, you also kind of mentioned 24 hours, but would like to know, like, realistically, if I were to, submit a book and say, hey, Nick, I'd love for you to take care of this for me. I mean, what are we looking at?
Well, I mean, for pricing, I would tell you to hit me up offline, in my DM. But because it's going to vary, based on the book, more. Right? No, like, if you ask me to do a Golden Age book, I'd probably charge you more than I do everything else on a Golden Age book. But I kind of consider silver on up all one price. I think that if you can't work a Silver Age book the same way you work a Bronze Age book, I mean, the paper is almost the same. Modern books are actually kind of more tricky than those older books. I actually enjoy working on the older books. I can kind of like turn my brain off and work on the older books, and I enjoy cleaning the books too, man. And I like, going on like a white cover and just going to town and making it look pristine again, So as far as the turnaround time, it just depends on what I got going on. I got a full-time job. I work at USAopoly, which is like a board game manufacturer. Games. Yeah, we make Monopoly games and we make other board games. And that takes me 40 hours a week. And usually I travel. Like, I went to Toy Fair earlier in the year, and I go to Gamma and stuff like that, and Gen Con and those conventions. Right now, obviously, I have no travel. I've been stuck in this house. I'm growing this quarantine beard. So, I'll be there soon, JR.
I'm about ready to cut this off. Trust me.
Yeah, this is actually the longest it's ever gotten for me. So this is all quarantine right here.
Quarantine.
So it really, so that's why I said I would hit me up in the DM. It really just depends on what I got going on, what's going on in my life. But usually a couple days, Hood Rat over here keeps me pretty stocked up. So,
Yep.
I'm on my last one with him. So if you want to get in real quick, I have
Yeah,
to
because
go
I'm
I'm gonna
after
hit you
him.
up probably for sure.
No, man, because I'm always,
Awesome.
I'm always at my honey pots, and I find, a bunch of grells, and I'm like, well, these guys are coming up with some signing events, and I just give a whole stack to Nick, and I let him know I need it by May 15th, bro. And I give it
That
to
is
him maybe
Sinister
like,
Six.
20 days ahead, and Nick always comes through, man.
Yeah, because the thing is, who likes to be in the pressing room all day, every day either? I like to play video games and chill and hang out as much as everybody else. So, I try to make sure I have some time on my weekends to reset my brain for my job,
Mhm.
and at the same time press some books, and deal with some comics.
But I know Nick enjoys it because I'll get text out of nowhere with spot here, spot gone. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
You gave me 5 books last time, man. And what was it? The book with the spot was the Infinity Gauntlet book, and it
Yep.
just had this I don't know, it looked like barbecue sauce or something like that on the back of the book.
What was
It was
Tristan
$1.
doing?
It was $1.
So I'm just wondering, we've gone over some the rolls on the side, cleaning off the cover and stuff. What about dings on the corner? You'll see sometimes
Crunches.
crunches. Is there anything you can really do about those, or are they kind of just shit out of luck?
So crunch corners, what you want to try to do is work out the corner, right, without tearing the book, right? And you're usually using other pieces of paper or cardboard stock to kind of work out those corners. All
But
you
it's
can
doable.
It's doable, but you're never going to make it look perfect again, right? Once the damage has been done, you can reduce the damage
And hope there's no color breaks.
and hope there's no color breaks. Like Hood Rat's Wolverine book I just did for him not too long ago.
There's a big old thing there in the corner.
Huge ding corner, right? And you could see the 2 side-by-side pictures that I had. It's reduced, but you could tell, hey, this book was dropped on its corner at one time.
Yeah.
But all you're trying to do is improve the appearance for the grader, right? Because the grader, however they're feeling on whatever day, they're going to give you a grade.
That is true.
Yeah.
Did you say you can't do magazine annual size books?
I've said I myself I haven't had a lot of experience on magazine size books. I just bought a Moon Knight Marvel Premiere book. I think a Stinkowitch cover that I'm going to work on to kind of practice, and that's a hell of a book that you got right there.
That'd be a great one to put a hole through.
Oh yeah, man.
That's a square bound book though, right? So that has the square bound. Those are a little bit different than the magazines. So basically, when you're using your press and your plates that you use for your press, right? Everything is done on a certain size. I use magazine backer boards because they give me cushion on all sides of my book. When I'm using a magazine size book, when I'm pressing a magazine size book, I have to buy a different material because I can't use magazine size backer boards on a magazine size book. So it's kind of, but a square bound book like that, an annual book, that's not a problem.
Hey man, so tell me if people are interested in your services, man, and want to get a book pressed, how do they get in contact with you, and how do they meet you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is minerkey12 at Instagram or whatever, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So just hit me up on my Instagram, send me a message. I'm in San Diego, North County, San Diego. So if you're local to North County, San Diego, we can meet at the comic book shop.
Nowhere Comic and Games, right in San Marcos?
Nowhere Comics and Games. It's about 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
Do
people mail into you?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you ship CGC?
No, I haven't started to ship to CGC.
Okay.
I was really I was telling Comics and Pops, man. I was on the side of CBCS, 9 months ago before they We're holding on to my books for this long. And I was really like, really deciding because I really like the way CBCS grades. They don't mess around, dude. If a book has some dings, it's a 9.6.
No, and,
Yeah.
and I've heard the whole argument of both sides, because I've seen also where they've got a tougher grade with CGC, go over to there, and the grade is way lower. I mean, I've seen it back and forth on both sides, inconsistencies.
There's a great YouTuber called Economics and Comics. He did like a cool multi-video thing where he compared. He like busted open the comics multiple times and stuff like that. PGX, CGC, CBCS, and CBCS came back with what he felt was the fairest grade, the actual real grade. And I kind of felt the same way. I have a Young Avengers that's a 9.6 CBCS that I swear if I crack it, it can go to CGC and be a 9.8. Where I also had an Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is CGC, that, could be a 9.8,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks, man. Can people mail in there say like JR who lives in Sacramento, can you mail in some books to you, and would you mail them back?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Okay,
that's
because I don't trust Hood Rat.
If you like, why not?
Yeah,
I might send to Alonzo, but not
his
Hood
book
Rat.
will be on eBay, man. Well, that looks exactly like my book.
Yeah, my Young Avengers Wizard World exclusive #1. Yeah, that would show up on eBay.
Pressing books has been kind of cool because I get to see some books that I never would buy. Like I don't do DC myself.
Good man.
Hood Rat does DC. He's like, here's this Wonder Woman book to press. I'm like, this is cool. That's a Perez Wonder Woman. I would never buy this ever, but I have my hands on it. I'm gonna take good care of it.
Oh man, I send an allotment, man. I'm not a hater on anything.
Well, you're easy, that's why.
Yeah, I'm totally easy, man. All right, Nick. So thanks for talking with us again. And so how can people get a hold of you if they want your services?
Yeah, so they can hit me up on Instagram at minorkey12. And if you use the hashtag Team Nerd Herd, we're going to go ahead and put 10% off on your invoice. And I usually take PayPal.
And can we have them subscribe to Team Nerd Herd too?
Yeah, you also have to make sure you subscribe and you click like on this video.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Watch it right to the end.